Hi, this is Marty Gold with a commentary on the 2023 Manitoba provincial election. In the course of my other endeavors and occupations, when I'm not analyzing political campaigns and podcasting and reporting on the latest horrific crime going on in our communities, I am able to travel and get outside of the city of Winnipeg. So I'm hope, it can be said that I have a lesser case of perimeteritis, perhaps, than other commentators and analysts. I'm not stuck in an office the way they may be. And when I say that I'm able to get outside of the city and go to other communities, this isn't like East St. Paul or West St. Paul or Anola or, someplace that's like within a 15-minute drive. I mean, an hour, hour and a half, 2 hours outside of the city. In the course of that, I'm able to talk with people about local issues. Not necessarily, usually it'd be in the realm of municipal matters. What's it like in your town, so to speak. But at a time like this, I can ask them about the provincial campaign and whether the different policy initiatives that are being announced by the parties seeking to garner public support to form government, in the case of the Conservatives, reform government, after October 3rd. What impression are these making? Are they swaying your opinions of anything? And a lot of people are tuned out. Some are tuned in, especially in rural Manitoba. It's harvest season. So their focus hasn't necessarily been in the last couple of weeks on some of these matters as much as perhaps their own affairs, which is all very well and good. Last week, I mention this because last week the Conservatives seeking to retain power in the province of Manitoba made an announcement that they would allow senior citizens to defer some or all of their property taxes. And then this would be carried as a debt, repaid when these senior citizens sell their homes. The province, the government, I guess, would pay municipalities, have to cover the bill for the municipalities, so the municipalities have operating capital, and then the province would recoup the money in the future. According to this proposal, it's not a grant, it's a deferral, so they'll get paid back. And another element of this is there's no income limit. There's no income, I think that it would be called a means test. So there's no means test on this proposal. The announcement was made by Scott Johnson, who's running for re-election in Assiniboia, but there was no dollar figure that I could find attached anywhere to this proposal. And there's other elements to the proposal for seniors, a tax credit of I think $500 to buy mobility aids, wheelchairs, walkers, and the like. The Liberal leader critical of this, Douglas Lamont, telling the CBC that this tax deferral was predatory because the government isn't paying for any of it, the seniors are. I struggle to understand how it's predatory. It strikes me more so as being essentially a line of credit. But whatever. And then the NDP trying to make a big stink that Heather Stephenson had not been part of the announcement. There are a couple of announcements she was not part of last week. With Uzoma Asagwara, the NDP Union Station candidate and noted local loudmouth, saying that, she skipped the announcement because of her government's terrible record on seniors. Okay, well, the NDP and the Liberals take that opinion, and that was in both Minnedosa, I can tell you, and in Gladstone. So these communities aren't far apart. But in talking with, can I say this? In talking with the locals, different things came up. A crime, affordability. That's the new word for cost of living. But that proposal to defer the property tax, so that seniors would have more money in their pocket. I can tell you, among the individuals that I spoke with, I think it was basically like 5 or 6 did touch on that. One in each community immediately referenced that announcement as something that brought them a degree of optimism about where their vote would go. I think that's a fair way to put it. Now, the criticism that has been put forward by the opposition parties Let's focus more so on the criticism from the New Democrats. This is why this is a tough one for them. So here you have a proposal that the Conservatives will let seniors defer all or some of their property tax. Province will front the money to the municipalities and collect it on the back end with interest. And I set aside the interest rate. I don't know how they're going to establish that. You have the NDP criticizing, and the Liberals criticizing, and the NDP criticizing this like it's, again, predatory or somehow not thought out, or is robbing Peter to pay Paul. What is the precedent for allowing senior citizens to defer property taxes until they sell? This kind of a program, I don't know the particulars, the small print, but this has been going on in British Columbia since 1974 and continues to this very day. Here's a quote: the main group of homeowners who can defer their taxes are those aged 55 and over. The program, which was created in 1974, is aimed at keeping seniors in their homes as long as possible. Well, there's a concept. By keeping their expenses manageable, even if their property's value has skyrocketed. Who was the Premier of British Columbia in 1974? A guy whose parents was brought to Canada with the assistance of my uncle official, Dave Barrett, who was the first New Democratic Premier in British Columbia. Oh, wait a second. This was brought forward by the NDP in BC in 1974. It's been maintained ever since. That's basically 49 years. And it's been maintained by successive NDP governments in British Columbia. And you start dropping names, Dusange, Hargrove, and other governments have come into power, like Christy Clark of the so-called Liberals in British Columbia. So you had these various leaders for 49 years, different political parties. None of them abolished the program. Must not be so bad for the seniors in British Columbia. Now, that's not all. In 2005, Bill 213, the Seniors Property Tax Deferment Act, was passed in Manitoba. It's almost 20 years ago. The act was to come into force on January 1st, 2005, or any earlier day fixed by proclamation. It was never proclaimed for whatever reason. Who was the premier in Manitoba in 2005? Well, that notorious fiscal conservative, how do you explain this one? Gary Doer. Gary Doer. He was an NDP premier in Manitoba, and he brought forward legislation not even 20 years ago, within living memory, as they say, to do exactly the same thing. Allow senior citizens to defer their property tax. Now, why is this program being initiated, or this proposal rather, being initiated now by the Heather Stephenson-led party, and not the other years when Brian Pallister, in the past few years when Brian Pallister was premier of the province, for instance? Well, it's because inflation was under control up until Justin Trudeau got the levers of power in Ottawa. In 2022, the Consumer Price Index rose to a 40-year high of 6.8%. Seniors, many with fixed incomes, looking for relief. The Stephenson-led Conservatives offering that relief. The opposition NDP not wanting to address this because they can't, this specific proposal, because it's all well and good with New Democrats that had the levers of power, that were in government in both British Columbia and Manitoba in the past. That is what's called in politics how to play chess while the other team is playing checkers. I'm Marty Gold. I'll be back with more news, analysis, commentary, and opinion on the 2023 Manitoba election for winnipegtribune.ca.